So we're going to use the previous charts that we've made and figure out the given values. So we want the cosine of 2 pi over 3. So we need to know, where does 2 pi over 3 land on the unit circle? We start over here. We know that the top is pi over 2, and we know this side is pi. So 2 pi over 3, it's greater than pi over 2, and stops about here. We are 1/3 away from pi. So this number right here is called your reference number. It's how far you are away from the nearest x-axis. So we take the reference number and on this one it's 1/3, and we put a pi on top of it. So we are looking for the cosine of pi over 3, and we also use the chart we just made. All students take calculus. We're in quadrant 2, so only the sines and the cosecants are positive, so we want the negative value of cosine of pi over 3. Cosine of pi over 3 is 1/2, so we want negative 1/2. So cosine of 2 pi over 3 is negative 1/2. So we can use that same trick for the tangent of negative pi over 3. Sketch out your unit circle. Negative pi over 3, we're starting at 1, 0, and we go down 1/3. So we are still 1/3 away from our x-axis. We're in quadrant 4. Only cosine is positive, so we want the negative tangent of pi over 3. Remember, that's sine over cosine. Tangent of pi over 3, sine of pi over 3 over cosine of pi over 3 goes to root 3 over 2 over 1/2. Bring that up as multiplying by 2 over 1. That goes to root 3, but we want the negative root 3. And now we have sine of 19 pi over 4. 4 goes into 19 4 times with remainder 3. So we're actually only looking at 3 pi over 4 for when we map it out on the unit circle. So we go 3 pi over 4. So I'm going to stop over here. We are 1/4 away from the x-axis. We're in quadrant 2. So we want the sine of pi over 4. Quadrant 2, look at that, sine stays positive. So all we want is the sine of pi over 4, which is root 2 over 2. You can also plug these into the calculator. When you plug it into the calculator, you need to make sure your calculator is in radians, or it might show up as rad. So plug in sine of 2.2, and let's round it to 3 decimal places. 0.808. Cosine of 1.3. You get 0.267. If we want the cotangent, we have to plug it in as the cosine of 28 over the sine of 28. So cosine of 28 divided by sine of 28. And you do get a negative. Negative 3.55. You could have also plugged it in as 1 over the tangent of 28. You will get the same answer. And the cosecant of 0.98, you need to plug it in as 1 over sine of 0.98. And you get out 1.204. So there are even and odd properties. The sine, the cosecant, the tangent, and the cotangent are odd functions. So what that means, if you take a negative t value, we bring out the negative and put it in front. So sine of negative t goes to negative sine of t. It follows that rule for all 4 of these. The cosine and the secant are even functions, so the negative doesn't do anything. The cosine of negative t is the same thing as cosine of t. Secant of negative t is the same thing as secant of t. So we're going to use those properties, and we are going to evaluate the sine of negative pi over 6. So this is an odd function, so we bring out the negative to the front. Negative sine of pi over 6. From the unit circle, we know that sine of pi over 6 is 1/2, so we got a negative 1/2. Cosine of negative pi over 4, cosine is even, so the negative doesn't matter. So it's the same thing as the cosine of pi over 4. Cosine of pi over 4 is root 2 over 2. So using the trigonometric function, we come up with the Pythagorean identities. The main one uses sine squared of t plus cosine squared of t gives us 1. When we divide all of these terms by sine, sine squared t. Sine squared, oops, I'm sorry, I was on the wrong one. We're not dividing by sine squared, we're dividing by cosine squared t. Sine over the cosine gives us tangent. Cosine over cosine goes to 1. 1 over cosine squared is secant squared. If we started back at the original and we divide all by the sine squared t, sine squared t over sine squared t goes to 1. Cosine squared t over sine squared t goes to cotangent squared t. 1 over sine squared t is cosecant squared t. Our last problem of the lesson, if the cosine of t is 3 over 5 and t is in quadrant 4, find the value of all the trigonometric functions at t. So we are given cosine to be 3 over 5. So we're going to plug that in to sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. Cosine is 3 over 5. We have to square it. So you get sine squared plus 9 over 25 equals 1. Subtract the 9 over 25 from both sides, so that we are at sine squared equals 16 over 25. Take the square root to get sine alone. It's going to be either plus or minus 4/5. We're in quadrant 4. All students take calculus. Sine has to be negative in quadrant 4. So we get sine as a negative 4/5. Then we can use tangent being sine over cosine. Negative 4 over 5 divided by 3 over 5. Flip the bottom one and multiply. So the tangent is negative 4/3. The cotangent is the reciprocal negative 4/3, so 3 over negative 4. The secant is going to be the reciprocal of the cosine, 1 over 3 over 5, so it goes to 5/3. And finally the cosecant, it's 1 over the sine of negative 4/5. So flip it, you get negative 5/4.